Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Reading Beauty. With my love for literature, I have started this channel as a reading journal channel. My first book of 2025 is The Metamorphosis by FRANZ Kafka, and today I just want to archive my thoughts through this video. When the word metamorphosis strikes my mind, I immediately think of change. Of course, the literal meaning is change, and with it, we think about a beautiful change, for example, of a beautiful butterfly from being a larva to a pupa and then transforming itself into a butterfly. The title of this book is Metamorphosis, but what's shocking here is that it's not about a beautiful change that occurs. Of course, as we read it, we get to understand the metaphor and symbol behind this term metamorphosis. I'm here to just speak out on this book, and I would love to recommend it to anyone who is interested in reading literature across the world. This is a book written by FRANZ Kafka, and this was among the few short stories that he published during his lifetime. His other important works, like The Trial, were published after his death, and it was published by his friend Max Brod. In fact, he wanted all of his manuscripts to be burned because he didn't want them to get published, thinking that his works were all unworthy. But all thanks to his friend who did just the contrary and gifted the world his works. Okay, let's keep it short. I just want to archive my thoughts on this book here. You all can join me with your thoughts on the comment section below. I wish I was a part of a book club, but well, I am not. That's the reason why I have opened up this channel. Okay, talking about the story, it's very simple. Funny, you might think at the beginning, but as you flip the pages, the story becomes somewhat dark. Very different from what one may have assumed after looking just at the title. But if you already know Kafka, you won't be much surprised. So in this story, we have the main character known as Gregor Samsa. We also have his mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Samsa. And then he has his younger sister known as Greta. That's how the German pronunciation is, Greta. He is a traveling salesman who had done quite well with his job and was the sole breadwinner for his family. His father, of course, had taken a backseat. He wasn't much, this person, Gregor Samsa, wasn't much satisfied with his job. There were regrets as to why he had chosen that job, but he was somewhat happy and content with the fact that he had taken good care of his family. Also, he had much greater ambition for his sister. He wished to fulfill his sister's dream with the music. But one morning, that's the very beginning of the story, Gregor Samsa turns into a monstrous, verminous bug. B-U-G, bug, right? So an insect. This is the very first metamorphosis. So I would just like to detail the list of metamorphoses that I just found out after reading this particular book. So for me, this was the first physical metamorphosis that occurs in this story. The difficulty he faces as he changes into a bug, right? The physical difficulty here we are talking about. Like any other Kafka's character, for example, like Mr. K in The Trial, Samsa is here trapped in his new avatar just after he wakes up. And then with this newfound life, he is alienated, he faces dejection and ultimately rots to death. So we don't have a very flowery, beautiful, good ending to the story. In a way, he is a modern man with all his anxiety, trying to find his purpose in his life. Overall, he faces identity crisis. He is dehumanized physically, and the treatment he receives from his family is also somewhat similar. It's so similar to that situation when you lose your respect and self-worth once you lose your job. It's like that. It's like defining one's worth with the money you earn. And once this metamorphosis of his situation occurs, for his family, he has been degraded, and also in the society. So here we get to see physically he is transformed into a bug, but if we just look at things clearly, we see that this person now has no work, he has no money to earn, he's not leaving his house, right? He is immovable. Um, Perhaps if we take it as a metaphorical symbol, or if we look at it only from metaphorical perspective, then I think that he is in a semi-paralyzed condition, right? He may be ill, right? So maybe some sort of an accident had occurred in his life. There is no worth. And so in the third chapter, we see that the family also prepares to abandon him. And finally, he even dies. By the end of the story, he is dead. Now, let's talk about the second metamorphosis. The second metamorphosis we see is the change in the atmosphere of the house where Samsa now lives. It was his home before, but now it is not a home anymore. It's a house where he lives as a bug. The third metamorphosis we see is of the change in his bedroom, with only the window as the link to the external world. And also the things in his room changes, right? There is no familiarity out there. The fourth metamorphosis is the change in the father. It's somewhat surprising for Samsa because he is in a new uniform. This father is in a new uniform who has acquired the job of a bank messenger. With this metamorphosis, we see the father now is again rising back to his power in his house. Before, it might have been Gregor Samsa because he was the sole breadwinner for his family. The fifth metamorphosis that we see is his treatment to his non-human son. For example, the way he carelessly throws apples to his son, he stamps over. All these things are very bad, the situation. And so we see that the family equation has already changed. The sixth metamorphosis is with the sister who previously fed and cleaned Samsa's bedroom. But as time passes, this change of her brother's state becomes too much for her to bear. The work that started as a kindness becomes a duty for her, and she starts neglecting Gregor Samsa altogether, like no cleaning, less or no feeding. But here we get to see her metamorphosis from a young girl to a woman who now starts working at the store. She's no more emotional, rather she is very rational, and she is the first one who decides to get rid of the vermin that Samsa is. The seventh metamorphosis is of the mother, who at first seemed concerned and sympathetic towards her son, unlike the father who carelessly stamped over and threw apples at Gregor. But by the third chapter, this same mother is relieved when Gregor passes away. She is old, has medical issues like asthma, but when Gregor's state changes, she is too metamorphosized into a working woman. She starts working as an underwear seamstress. So we see that there is a different metamorphosis that's occurring in the family soon after Samsa's position is degraded. So everyone has acquired a job for themselves. The eighth metamorphosis is of the relationship, how it changes and deteriorates over time due to his new appearance. Now let's talk about the ninth metamorphosis. Here Gregor has appetite, but he refuses to eat anything. He is willingly refusing to eat anything. So the metamorphosis here is of a human turned bug who scarcely consume anything. He has lost his social identity, the identity within his own family, because now he is a useless bug out there. And towards the end, it's not the family, but an outsider, a woman who has been hired and given an additional duty of cleaning Samsa's bedroom. This clearly shows the metamorphosis of relationship from being a son and a brother to a spineless, worthless creature. With Gregor hearing about the plan of abandonment from his family members, he eventually dies a silent, somewhat sacrificial death. This is, I think, the last metamorphosis from life to near death, from life to slow decay and degradation. Metaphorically, with his status being degraded, Samsa has now lost his value in the modern industrialized society and also within his family. With this metamorphosis from life to death, the metamorphosis or the change in his family, in the life of his family, continues as the parents notices the physical metamorphosis of their daughter who could now marry. Thank you.